Draw. Got you on that time, Pilgrim. Never expect that to happen, huh? They call me the Duke. Mr. Multi-Voice Reviewer's not here right now, so I'm reviewing this. Hope I didn't hurt that poor little dog. Anyway, I try my best to make myself look like a cowboy, but I've been spending my life in the city, Pilgrim. Well, suburban to be precise. Some of you might think what the West was back in the old days. Of course, some of you have heard of spaghetti westerns, like the good and the bad and the ugly. And you want to know why they call them spaghetti westerns, Pilgrim, is because they were filmed in Italy. So some of the cast of the movies were Italian. But of course, that's what made Clint Eastwood famous. But of course you don't hear me go on saying, "Go ahead, make my day, Pilgrim." Now you gotta ask yourself one question. You feel lucky, punk? Do ya? But of course I'm not talking about a spaghetti westerns I'm going to review to you today. I'm going to talk about a western. It's based on a true actual event. About a small town that goes by the name of Tombstone. But you're kind of wondering, what really happened over at Tombstone back in the Old West? If some of you have heard of Wyatt, Earp, and Doc Holliday, there you go. This one here is a really good western movie. It's based on the true actual event that really happened. Wyatt Earp was a lawman in Kansas, and he retired being a lawman. So him and his brother Walt and his younger brother Herschel, they decided to go into the small town of Tombstone and try to make some money. And it was during the time people had bonds. Bonds where it locates their valuable precious gold out in the mines back in the old days. There was a gold rush happening that time. But one thing, it was a real problem. There were a bunch of people who called themselves cowboys. Now, they're not like any typical cowboys like you know today. I mean, they call themselves cowboys. And one thing you can tell about those outlaws, they have red sash around their hips. And the leader of the gang goes by the name of Curly Bill. And his second in command, Johnny Ringo. Now, Wyatt Earp and his brothers decided to go to Tombstone to find a good place where they can own their own gambling table and see if they make some money out of it. And of course, Wyatt Earp met his old friend, Doc Holliday, the fastest man on the draw. They call him Doc Holliday because he was a dentist. Now, Doc Holliday was no lawman, that's for sure. He lives his life as a gambler. And he only kills people who calls him a cheater. Now, throughout the years, they start noticing that the cowboys are going out of hand because they were getting high by smoking that opium stuff. So therefore, Herschel and Walt Earp, they decided to become the law. Bring law into Tombstone. Of course, it's upsetting the cowboys. Now, Wyatt Earp, he doesn't want to be involved. But, as it turns out, the cowboys have pushed him too far. So therefore, Wyatt Earp decided to take the law in his own hands and become a U.S. Marshal. Be a lawman once again. And his friend Doc Holliday decided to join with him. And that's what happened in the OK Corral, where all the outlaws were hanging around those cowboys. And that's when Wyatt Earp and his brothers and Doc Holliday, well, you know what happens. A big gunfight, Pilgrim. Now, of course, some of the members of the cowboys were dead. And the other member, they're not taking this lying down. So, what they did, they killed Wyatt Earp's younger brother, shot him in the back, and he died. And Walt, he got shot in the arm, and they had to remove his arm. So now Walt has to go to Arkansas. While Wyatt Earp and his friend Doc Holliday, they decided to stay in Tombstone and trying to bring the law in that town. And of course there might be some betrayal, because even though Wyatt Earp was happily married, his wife was hooked on laudanum. You know, that liquid opium stuff. She's an addict. And he meets this lovely lady who is actually an actress on stage. She's a singer, and she's also a rich lady. And then all of a sudden they have other members who decide to join with them. Now, I forgot their names, but there was Mick Masterson. He used to be a member of the Cowboys, but since what they did to the Earp brothers, he decided to quit. Now, here's one thing that's pretty interesting about Wyatt Earp. Unlike other gunslingers who always move from left to right, Wyatt Earp, he stayed still as a statue and still firing his gun. And then there was a final showdown between Doc Holliday, Wyatt Earp, and the rest of the members of the martial law. The U.S. Marshals. They got into a final showdown where Curly Bill and the member of his team decided to shoot the lawmen. And of course, Wyatt Earp had shot Curly Bill. But now there's another problem. There's Johnny Ringo. He's the fastest man on the draw, just like Doc Holliday. Now, even though he wants to kill Wyatt Earp, he wants Wyatt Earp's blood. He wants his soul. But Doc Holliday, being a truthful friend, he always say, "I'm your huckleberry." And that's when it comes to a drawdown between Doc Holliday and Johnny Ringo. And of course, one thing not many people know, Doc Holliday had a touch of tuberculosis. So, he doesn't care if he lives or dies throughout this entire fight. And ironically, he died in a hospital with his boots off. Imagine that. Anyway, come to the end of the story, Pilgrim. At the end, the Cowboys were no more. Some of the members threw away their red sash, and some of them were out hiding. But after that, Wyatt Earp continued on, living as a lawman with his new wife. And that's how the rest really was, Pilgrim. Now, this is the Duke telling you all, see you soon, and Multi-Voice Reviewer will be back to review more movies, ladies and gentlemen. So, see you later, partners.